I was just wondering, Ick is both like a comedy and a horror movie. I was just wondering how you guys find the balance between horror and comedy, and do you think that people can simultaneously laugh and be scared?
Some people can. That's the answer. You know, a friend to all is a friend to nobody, right? So
Mhm.
I don't believe in making something that every single person can love. You know, sometimes when things are catered specifically to certain audiences, those audiences appreciate it more. You know, so not everybody can look at a film and go, "Oh, that's really funny and that's really scary," and I can enjoy both things simultaneously. Clearly, that shaves the audience down a little bit, but the ones that do is who I'm aiming for, you know. But actually, there's quite a bit of people that will appreciate that more than you think, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's my favorite style, this kind of movie, because I need a let up from the excitement of the other stuff, and the laughter helps me release some of it if we can laugh in the right way. So I think it's the perfect medicine. That's the way I like to enjoy this kind of adventure movie, and horror thriller, exciting thing, because it just makes it's more engaging and
And
more fun. You want to, running and getting scared shitless is good, but it's also fun to laugh at the person who's.
Do you guys think that this is a, with that being said, a good like gateway into the horror genre for someone who hasn't really like experienced it all that much?
it's completely designed as a gateway horror film. I looked around and I saw, I'm a dad, and I saw that, for my kids, there's no gateway horror being made anymore. It's either this or straight to Terrifier, and I love Terrifier. I do. I think it's a great movie, but I'm not going to show that to my 13-year-old yet, you know? So, we need to be able to like, if we're not going to build the next generation of horror fans, then just don't make movies like this. But if we're going to, bring them in, you've got to do it slowly. I think that this movie is pretty intense for like, say, a 13-year-old back in the 80s. But I
Right.
know what's on television. I know the sort of extreme way that we sort of view media these days and the horrible stuff we see on TV all the time that they're not going to get away with from TikTok and stuff. So it's more like a PG-13 plus more than a PG-13, but nevertheless, it's not going to scare people that have been around the block. I can't fool an older audience that have been watching those extreme stuff, but I can scare the young kids, and give the older people something else. And that's where the humor comes in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what's with the throwbacks and the needle drops and all the iconic stuff from the 2000s.
Well, speaking of like the 2000s, this movie's soundtrack, how much fun was it kind of putting that together, and was there a level of nostalgia in that process?
Oh yeah, I mean, to go back, I just knew that like, and people who love pop punk will scream at me and say pop punk is not dead, and it isn't. Truly in our hearts, it isn't. But the reality, it's not being played on the radio right now. Like if you listen to any sort of contemporary radio station, the sound's not in. It's like acid rap and whatever's out there these days. And it feels like an anachronism right now. But it was so much the soundtrack of a lot of people 20 years ago. And so if I had to do kind of a nostalgia thing and you play back to 20 years, what would Hank actually be listening to? Hank would be listening to pop punk. So it was a no brainer in terms of what that is. In terms of the reaction to people, it's really funny to see people's reactions because it's like everyone is like rediscovering these tracks together in a dark room. And it's like, it's the funniest thing to see.
Brandon, what inspired you to kind of be part of this project? Was it something just about Hank that really like drew you in, or was it just a concept in general?
I think it was multifactorial. Definitely liked Hank as a character, the journey of Hank. Um, I like the idea of I like this kind of movie. I like these the movies that I grew up on largely. Although this, I didn't. Not all the movies I grew up on were horror movies. It's a similar. There's an energy. There's a magic. There's a thread that goes throughout those films that I think Joesph captured was the goal of a part of this film. It layered with many things, but it, it's not just a movie. Like it's an experience. And those movies in the 80s and 90s, they were experiences. I think that's what this is, in a different way. And I could see that Joesph was going to take me on that journey in the audience after having watched Bodied and had a conversation with him. And I thought it's a no brainer for me to do this. It's going to be a heck of a lot of work, um, but I think it's going to be worth it, um, both in the final product and all the things that I learned. I mean, my story, the story of Hank, uh, appealed to me because there are parallels to in my life, in everybody's life, really. We all go through ups and downs and hard times, and we have to figure out, what we're times we figure out what we're made of, I guess. That's Hank's journey that we get to see, and I got to live through that through him, and it really is kind of cathartic. I mean, helps me.
And speaking of movies that you grew up with, what would y'all say that your top 3 creature feature films are?
Excluding
Okay.
it.
Okay, so if I'm going to be really honest with you, I'm going to date myself like crazy. Okay, like I'm old enough that when I was at elementary school, I used to check out books on Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy, and they were like these. I don't know, they're like these orange books, and they were picture books, and I used to just look at them. Before I even watched the movies, I would just like look at them over and over again, and that sense of imagination. I remember like they were scary, but they weren't. They weren't like they weren't like that scary. They're accessible enough. And so I've always had a heart, for like the original, like Universal films, But then as I turned into a teenager, I did love, the remake of The Blob. I loved The Thing. I loved all that sort of like The Fly, the body horror elements of where creature features went to. I've never connected, to be honest with you, with the modern giant, Godzilla movies and stuff like that. At least the American versions of it. It always felt a little, I don't know. It's like they took these beautiful things that were like weird and then tried to mass market it, and it always felt like flavorless Coke or something, So I like the original stuff,
Yeah.
I don't have as much to pull from as far as my viewing history, I guess, in the realm. But because we're talking about movies that this is like, and it was one of my childhood movies, is Monster Squad.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I was gonna say, Dark Crystal isn't a creature feature, but it's creatures in it. Sorry, I love real live action puppets. And I think I was gonna say Sleepy Hollow. I really just like and enjoy something about that movie a lot, even though it's not. I guess it doesn't rank with creature feature, maybe, but it's.
What's a creature feature, but no one ever thinks it's a creature feature. But that was one of my favorite creature features. E.T.
Oh yeah, that 100%
so right.
Everybody just remembers it's like this love story of a boy and an alien, but that thing was scary, in the beginning.
When it was first introduced, yeah. See, we're not allowed to watch E.T. in my house because my wife is deathly afraid of E.T. Like she will burst into tears every time she sees him. So I'm not allowed to ever watch it again.
Yeah, I cried in the theater. I was scared, I think, of the medical scene. I was either sad for him or scared about how antiseptic it was at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and that type of primal fear is already there in kids. We don't have to go all the way there. Kids are naturally scared in the first place. You don't want to traumatize them. And ET is pretty traumatizing, by the way. But that's a creature feature, straight up. I will die, on my grave going, ET was a creature feature.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Okay, and how would you guys personally, defend yourself against the ick as Joesph and Brandon?
Look, the ick is all about apathy and that sort of overwhelming you to the point that you give up. And as one of my writers said yesterday, no, that cannot possibly happen, right? So, I will say that when some of these big sort of monster social events have happened in the past, I have found myself a little lazy, frankly, So I will have to admit I might be one of those people that just sit there and then the ick takes over simply because I'm not paying attention, And maybe the movie is a warning to myself, But I would like to say I'm the hero, but I might be the idiot, to be honest with you. So
I would try for a while to not let the ick to infect my mind. try to control with my mind. And then I would realize that by focusing too much on the ick, I'm focusing on the ick and giving more power to the ick. And instead, I got to put my energy to making lights and being the other side and fighting and bringing people together.
Nice.
Nice. Well, really quickly before we go, I have to say, Brandon, you were my first like Superman experience, by the way. Like your Superman Returns is what got me into Superman growing up. And we're kind of in a time where Superman's at an all-time hype, especially with like James Gunn's new film coming out next year. I kind of was curious what it meant to you to be part of that legacy and that history.
It was, and continues to be an amazing gift. Being able to know that I, affected your life in a positive way. I mean, it sounds like in a positive
It was
way.
very positive.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's wonderful. I appreciate you letting me know that, and I'm grateful. And stories of amazing things. Power of one character. So many people have contributed to as artists and creators. It's a wonderful thing, and we need more of it. And appreciate you guys for being here talking about the movie. And
yeah. Can I add one thing about Brandon?
Yeah.
As I've gotten to know him in this entire process, one of the reasons I loved his Superman is because Brandon is ultimately one of the best Clark Kents that ever existed. He is genuinely a good guy. It's kind of insane. It's like the salt of the earth, the Iowa of it all, because Brandon's from Iowa, and Clark Kent's from Kansas. There are so many parallels between him and the actual guy. It's on a certain level he is playing himself, And so to have a person like that manifest, like the ultimate Boy Scout, the good guy, you can't have a better person than Brandon being that guy, because he really is that guy. So, and he's a little goofy too, like he's a little bit of an alien. He is. So
Right up there with ET.
Yeah.
Brandon is ET basically. So.